$4 latte and like $3 egg McMuffin. If I did, I apologize to all of Korea and to all the Paris baguettes of the world. Okay, bottom left we have Byun. Top right it is Skillous. You can actually get some bets going for this as well, for all you gamblers. Honestly, this is kind of the first, maybe promising game. Again, being just as truthful as possible. Maybe a little harsh. Okay, fine, whatever. The truth is, a lot of the matchups beforehand were almost pre-decided. I think there was hope. I think the North American guys, there is absolutely zero reason to just be like, oh, literally zero hope. They're never going to win. Ha ha ha. Because one, I'm not a dick. Two, I do think North American players get too much flack. And three, I just don't think it's true. I think actually there are games we've witnessed from Vindicta, from Rob, from a lot of the North Americans who, you know, they actually play. They go toe-to-toe for a little while. So I wanted to make sure to set the stakes correctly, like set the tone correctly, which is, yes, Byun will probably win. Or he will win, and the question more is, how will he win? But then also sprinkle in some of the, like, well, here's how this could have happened, and here's how this could have happened, and here's how this was really hopeful. Now that we're going up with Skillous, though, we've kind of bumped it up to Byun should win. I do believe this will be a maybe even 2-0, but more question marks there. The reason that you would, you know, you'd add question marks to who the actual victor is going to be, because Skillous is just, you know, a very proven European player at this point, who's been on a bit of like a roller coaster lately, highs and lows, sure, but yeah, he's a proven top 8 even European player many of the times. Where the North American guys, a lot of them weren't even in, you know, the most recent regionals. But you would take away question marks due to the ping factor and the time factor. So this might sound a little confusing. You're like, taking away, adding question marks? What are you talking about? Skillous versus Byun could have a lot of potential for being like an upset, but if you're thinking that, then you also have to consider that maybe there's less chance of an upset because Skillous is playing at like 4 in the morning from Europe to, I believe this is maybe Central. Yeah, it's Central. So it's, you know, it's bad for both of them, but also the time issue. Which I don't know if it really affects Skillous at this point. He has been playing a lot of the North American Cup, so that might actually be a non-factor. It still is the case for me. I'm thinking Byun will win. I'm thinking Byun's in a better headspace. It's nice, bright, and early in Korea as opposed to maybe dark and kind of sketchy in Utrecht. And then, yeah, Byun's just a particularly savage player versus Protoss. I feel like he is very capable of tripping up even the best Protoss in the world with his various openers and, let's face it, sometimes even reckless decision-making. 2 Marauder opener is kind of exactly what I'm on about. Just the ways that can throw off a Protoss. In this case, not going to. It was scouted. You see this opener as the Protoss. There's really only one thing it can be, realistically. Well, some weirdo has like a... Oh, the Adept attempted a block. I love it. It did not work. Oh, but did it, though. Stalker was able to get healed back up with the shield battery, so maybe the Adept block did work. Oh, haha. Not bad from Skillous there. Anyways, I was going to say, you see this, and maybe there's some weirdo out there who is a pro who is going for that fast of stim, but no, it's going to be a Marauder slow opener. So Skillous was able to deflect that with a shield battery. Really, that was as simple as it was going to get, but there's no guarantee that you see exactly when they're coming out. And then, I guess if you undervalue it, there's also some chance there for the Marauders to do damage. In this case, Skillous lost a Stalker. Not even, actually. My bad. Nope, didn't lose a single Stalker. Kills 2 Marauders and a Reaper. Perfect game so far for Skillous. Thank you for 300 bits. Scout C Justice. Evening ZG stream. For many people, yes. One of mine drop gets taken care of. Easy peasy, actually. Well. Oh! Okay. So that turned a little awkward. Skillous thought he could one-shot the Widow Mine, did not. Could have had a Stalker killed for it, but Byun targeted the probes to do maximum damage. But maximum damage for 3 Widow Mines and a Medevac was still only 4 probes. That's, you know, not that impressive. And then the realization that Skillous is actually just four-gating him, you know, really only coming down at that point. So maybe still good enough notice, but going to be complicated no matter what. Stim is done with the way that Byun opened, but stimming on units that don't have Medevacs healing them can be a bit questionable. The Stalkers can absolutely micro this one out. Stalker is going to have trouble against the 2 tanks, but 1 at a time maybe is totally doable. Second tank does siege up, gets 2 shots off, and that actually takes down so many Stalkers as they were already weakened from earlier, and it looks like their reinforcing tank is going to be able to save the day. It was a bit sketch. It was a bit sketch if that one had placed itself maybe farther away or rallied a different direction. It could have been game over right then and there. As it is, still a lot of wiggle room. Skillous has a lot of room to play with. He could always pick up 4 Stalkers and just go for SCV kills. He can either rededicate the Stalker warpins or try to transition out, which he is currently transitioning out while also doing some pretty sick Warp Prism micro alongside Blink, now off of cooldown. The Bio's coming in once again. That is a lot of Marauders, and not really a whole lot more of the Blink opportunity available when you're backed up against the wall like this, but the Marauder count's just not high enough. 30 SCVs have already gone down. Skillous has given himself a win here, I'm pretty sure. Like, straight up a win. That is a large worker deficit for Byun. His army supply is still pretty good, though, so that's the question mark here. Can Byun make it across the map, utilize his army advantage, if he even has one, by the time he makes it across the map? Ooh, well, he might, actually. Ooh, that was maybe too aggressive a blink forward. Again, both of them trying to micro with the hot pickups, but it's Skillous who traded out, I think, probably one of the worst trades so far, with that blink on top of the tank. You know, the fact was there was a tank guarding it. There was the bio number a little bit higher than before, and so when you blunk in like that, it was going to be a ton of damage output from the Terran, not just the, 6 Marines, 1 tank shot, 2 Marauders. No, it was everything shooting at already weakened Stalkers. So, like I said, probably one of the worst trades Skillous has performed here, but not enough to throw away the lead. I think he does get up to 2 Colossus. I think did we see charge finish? We did see charge finish, and while Skillous is still missing out on upgrades, and a 3rd base is not quite finished, I think he's still okay. But that did make it questionable, because it really was coming down to Byun mules, right, can cover a worker deficit for an extended period of time, and also rebuilt, some SCVs, so that helped. And then it always was going to have a very good army, as long as it didn't get to the overwhelmed GG moment, where you can't produce enough to take on the Stalkers. If that didn't happen, and it didn't, Byun's going to have an upgraded Bioforce with tanks and Medevacs. And Skillous is going to have basic gateway units. So that's always scary. But if Skillous had played this perfectly, he still would have had probably like 8 more Stalkers, which has a lot of micro potential. And with that micro potential, he would have even more time to feel safe back at home, getting his reinforcements, and eventually combining reinforcements with the Stalkers. Warp Prism is set up to go for a Zealot drop by looks of things, which Byun should be mentally aware of, but being physically present is a little more difficult to do. And there you have it, Zealot bomb coming in. Some reinforcements were available. Skillous is actually going to reinforce this, seeing an opportunity, while also feeling confident in his defenses back at home. That's kind of the critical thing. So he has more time buying to do. He's got sentries with force fields. He's got Colossus with range to be able to poke and prod. And he has shield batteries to fall back to at every base as well. So as long as he's really not caught off guard, he should be fine. Byun, now really all in, had gotten himself to a point where it was not maybe so all in. Well, now it is again definitely all in. And his army supply just a little lower than his opponent. Shield battery overcharge cannot save those Colossus, as another one actually goes into the tank fire. Shield battery was defunct anyways, so that's also why he couldn't save the 2 Colossus. And the 3rd Colossus is barely going to be saved by a normal shield battery, but that save is very important. Without that Colossus, Skillous is going to fold right then and there. With this Colossus, there's still a little bit of hope, but the Colossus can't make its way over to the natural. It's got to recall to the main base. The tank's too powerfully positioned. Skillous, all he has to do is hold. All he has to do is hold. 50 workers to 22. But this hold is questionable. Doesn't have enough gateway to spend all of his money, so while mass charge lots would be beautiful right now, he lost his gateway power in the natural and just didn't have that many in the main. He didn't have that many in general, to be honest. Only was up at 7 gateways. And now, you know, shut down to just 3 in the main. Shield Battery Overcharge is available once again. Gonna pop to try and chase after this army, but I don't know if the Zealot number is actually high enough. This is 1-1 Bio versus 0-0 Zealots. The best thing the Zealots could do would trade their lives out to take care of some of these tanks, thus opening up more of an opportunity for the Colossus. But the Colossus still needs protection, you know? And that is sorely lacking when the Charge Lots have given up their lives to try and take on the Bio. Coming in kind of, you know, a little too small of an army every single time, a little too disjointed of an army every single time. Skillous has certainly taken a beating from this counterattack, and things are, again, ambiguous. Like, I still think Skillous should win this game with his economy, but if he's going to continue having to throw away units unideally just to buy time, just to survive, then that could change, for sure. Byun's starting to rebuild the CV count, which, I mean, still not very good CV count, but sure, you know, went from 18 or whatever to 29. And we'll always have the upgrade lead. Well, not always, but it's going to still have an upgrade lead. Like, it's been minutes that he's at an upgrade lead. So that is still in effect, even as we have +1 armor finally on the way for Skillous. He has been able to rebuild not just a decent number of Zealots, but also a couple of, I guess, accessory units, right? The Sentries could be vital. A couple of Archons will be coming in as well, which I think is a beautiful maneuver. Skillous was banking a bit of gas, and then I think what is also really good about those Archons, they're going to be more helpful against the tanks. The Colossus were always going to be a little sketch. They wouldn't be able to kill a lot of the Marauders, first of all. They deal the damage, but they don't actually get the kills a lot of the time. Those are the charge lots with the Immortals or even the Stalkers. And then the Medivacs are healing them as well. And then their glass cannons, super vulnerable, could be pounced upon, could just be focus fired with the tanks. The Archons, well, they could also be focus fired. They're more synergistic with a blitz. So they're going to be able to come with the Zealots trying to overwhelm the tanks and the Bio. So I like that decision, that's what I'm trying to say, as opposed to trying to maybe just go into Colossus because, well, that's what I was going into. So, like, isn't that good? Well, coulda maybe been still fine. And maybe a Colossus will be added in after this. But right now, all about more of the blitz, like I was talking about. Just seconds shy of having that +1 armor. Maybe should have waited. And now being forced into a choke, but Guardian Shield, oop. Maybe shouldn't have double Guardian Shielded. Now he has no Guardian Shield. But anyways, push that back. Push that back, gives him plenty of breathing space. And I think that is that. Now I believe that Skillous, secure in his defensive position, should win this game. Oof. A little sketchy. A little sketchy. The Skillous now going up to 4 bases, replacing the Robo. That's another reason, by the way, he didn't go back into Colossus. He literally lost the Robo. It was on the front here. But now he can go back into Colossus. Which, I think that's the primary reason. But he could have emphasized rebuilding the Robo as opposed to building a Templar Archives. I think this was not just a... Oh, GG. Not just a, okay, I need to make a decision right here, right now. Okay, Templar Archives it is. I also thought that it really did synergize. Yep, that's the word I'm going to use. I really did think that Archon synergized better with his goals. GG. Skillous. 1-0 lead, man. All right, game number 2 on Data C. Bottom left down a game. It is Byun. Top right, we have Skillous, who very nearly let that game slip out of his fingers, but recovered. Some things that could have made that an even easier game for Skillous. Definitely think keeping more of the stalkers alive, maybe not jumping on top of the tank like he did, which is always a decision, because a trade on tank numbers can sometimes be worth it. I'm not so sure that that particular last blink-in was. So if he had 8 more stalkers, buying time, and buffering for the Colossus, I think it would have been easier. And then if he had chosen to maybe... No, it's actually really difficult. I was thinking if he had chosen to hole up in one base as opposed to trying to split his defenses, but... No, that wouldn't have... I mean, there's a reason he chose to split his defenses, because you really have to. If he holes up in the third base, and then Byun sieges his tanks in the exact same position, he has full reign over the natural, which he ended up getting anyways, because one Colossus couldn't stop that. But you knew why Skillous had put the Colossus there. You knew what his intentions were. It was just missing some protective units over on that side. And then if he had only protected the natural and left his third open, well, if Byun had siege up in the exact same position again, maybe it is okay. Because if Byun has to move all the way to the right to punish the third base, then his tanks are kind of unguarded. So maybe that would have been okay. But that would have also been really, really hard to tell. Because maybe it's not. Maybe it just turns into a surround. And Byun's like, yeah, way to fall into my trap. So you really are supposed to split your defenses. And with shield batteries and AoE units on either side, usually it's a pretty okay thing to do. Just missed maybe, literally 6 zealots. And the Colossus maybe not walking forward as it did. And it's not as much of an issue. It's still an issue. Because Byun's army's good. His tanks are well positioned. And Skillous has some tough choices to make. But it was a particularly difficult position because he couldn't buy a little bit more time and he couldn't get his army together. Eventually did so. I also got to wonder if Byun had been able to somehow tear down that War Prism and save, what was it, 20 SCVs that died after the Blink Stalker, just to those Zealot Warpins. What would have that game looked like? Probably, maybe, a win for Byun actually. But it wasn't. At the end of the day, Skillous takes a maybe surprising 1-0 lead, but I just don't think having him get a game is that surprising. I do think if he 2-0s Byun, that would be a surprise. But he had some solid play in the last game. Almost crumbled to the anticipated problem. The old, well, your economy might be screwed, but your army's still pretty good problem, right? But he handled that well. And then just nothing but applause for how he handled the earlier shenanigans. And I think the Stalker 4-8 build was basically 80% good, right? So Skillous seems to just be in a good place against Byun. A confidence, making usually the good decisions. More good decisions than bad ones, right? That's why he won the game. And if he continues doing that, then maybe he could 2-0 Byun. Changing things up a lot by going into Phoenix, and just really right into Phoenix. Finally revealed as the medevac gets found out. And he's going to go ahead and let that Phoenix tank so he can kill one of the Widow Mines. And, oh, both the Widow Mines, actually. Medevac will survive, but still a complete nullification of the Widow Mine drop is nice. Not just because it's, makes the entire opener useless for Byun. Like, well, 2 Widow Mines did literally nothing. It also means that Skillous has nothing to worry about. He confirms that it was a Widow Mine drop. That was only going to be that was the only form of action that was really going to be on the field most of the time. If that is the opener, some people throw those Marines on the third base, right? And it gets a little weird, but not this case. And then he has nothing to worry about even as far as harassment goes. He doesn't have to worry about looking at his bases. He can focus entirely on the Phoenix Micro, scouting what Byun's doing, where his army is, and even trying to capture that Raven, which many Korean Terrans still get even after discovering it is Phoenix. So in this case, he was already on his way to building a Raven, Maybe he could have canceled it when he saw the Phoenix, but they just don't. Seems like all of them are like, nope, still going to try and do it. Which seems really sketch to me, but it's something all the casters have picked up on from the Korean Terrans. They like their Ravens. So, yes, Skillous, third base up and running, is probably going to burst forth quite a bit on that probe count in just 30 seconds here. Although he's not actually chronoing. Saving his chrono for maybe the upgrades. Blink's getting chronoed and maybe +1 as well. So he's not really skyrocketing ahead on the probe count then. There we go. Because again, I'll go back to the worker count I mentioned last series. I feel like 60 to 48 is when I feel that the Protoss did a really nice job. And I'm a little worried for the Terran's ability to punish. Not like completely worried. Obviously, it still happens. But that's where I'm like, okay, Protoss, good position. Yep. So 60 to 50. I mean, kind of close, kind of similar, but Phoenix are still trying to scout exactly what the plans are of the Terrans. See, the third CC has started. Pretty sure they saw that. Yep. And perhaps we'll have Skillous choose to add on gases and go into double robo. No, nope, no double gases yet. So, oh, there we go. Maybe double robo in robotics bay. Charge is yet to start. He knows an attack is still gonna. It's still coming, even though third TC is on the way. Obviously, the attack is still coming. He's gonna miss dealing with the drops. Phoenix didn't see that pickup, and they're looking at a very undefended mineral line. Things should be getting real sus real soon. There's the recalls. He realizes maybe it's now time to worry about my defense. That things are already hectic. Not having anything in the main base to stop the drop means that all of this gets unloaded in some kind of finicky area as well, and then there's got to be more on the way beyond that, right? That's the kicker. One attack is fine for Skillous to deal with. Two attacks might not be. Shield out overcharge pop to try and buy some time with those cannons, but easily focus fire down. Probes might have to just be pulled away. Oh, too late now. They're all going to get massacred. And Skillous is now locked out thanks to a couple of Wood mines that he can't detect. And while this army doesn't have any medevacs, it only has a limited amount of time here. Sacrifices the Phoenix, take care of those Wood mines. The damage has been done. Skillous loses 16 probes, some gateway production, interruption on his build in general. And didn't really get to maybe punish as much as he was hoping for. 2 medevacs have gone down, so maybe there was actually a decent amount of punish in the main base. That this army did manage to retreat and then finds the Stalkers running headfirst through the brush. That was a nice little trap there from Byun. Whoops. Misblink there from Skillous. I love the hallucinated Colossus. I think Byun knows is hallucinated. Skillous is now working on that charge. I do believe that that was just a really well-timed interruption. Whatever Skillous's plan was, whether it was going to charge or to add on the robo, once things got out of control, he missed the timing on his charge and then, of course, couldn't afford to go into Colossus in a second robo. Now going for this attack up the ramp, I just feel like it's super, super questionable. Unupgraded Stalkers versus a good size of bio is a really tough game for the Protoss to play. Their micro has to be almost perfect, and it looks like maybe Skillous has broken through. Another stim is going to hurt the units more than help them at this point, perhaps. The medevacs are almost out of juice. 2 more do reinforce. Wood mines actually get a shot, and Skillous is losing out on the army. I'm actually not even sure how he's pretending to be a bully here, because he really isn't. The time is up, man. He has lost. The pendulum swings the other way. Skillous significantly down in supply. Even before he blinked and retreated backwards. That was a way overextending, but you could see why. You could see a brief glimmer of hope when the medevacs were dry, the marauders were low, and the stalker numbers were still rather intimidating. But what was really happening was the bio was still alive, although weakened, and the stalkers were weakened and going up against a superior firepower. Especially because the Terran did have +1 attack during that time. Now he even has +1 armor as well. So I think Skillous, I actually just kind of wish he didn't go for the counter at all, actually. Hindsight 2020, 100% though. Thought he might have almost a similar situation to the last game where his army power was better despite his economy taking a really big hit. But it's always hard to say that ever for the Protoss' side when they are on unupgraded gateway units. It's like, are their armies ever that much better than mass bio units? Usually not. GG. Want a webcam? Yeah, because I'm casting. Is it possible to do it with webcam? I know some other streamers do. I think maybe ESL has relaxed their rules. Because when you're casting these open cups, initially the rules stated, like, no webcam. I think maybe they just don't care now. I don't know. So I could, but I don't want to. That is the truth of it. I don't want to, and even though the argument is there and valid that it probably is better for the stream, I think more people like having, you know, Roddy's face in the bottom right or whatever he puts it. Personally, I really don't want to. I'm hunched over. I'm looking at other things. I don't know. The less time I'm on camera, the happier I am. Honest to God. Which makes me a bad streamer, but that's the truth of it. If I could spend an entire offline event never being on camera, that would be my preference. So now the series is tied up 1-1. Top left is Byun. Top right is Skillous. Skillous, I think, had a really good game. Probably for 7 or 8 minutes. Again, we're 2, right? It was a really good game up until the big drop into the main, which he either mistimed or just really did not realize, right? Like, and by mistimed and not realize, I guess it's a little more ambiguous, because I think what would have happened, most likely what would have happened, is that Skillous knew the army was moving out, figured he could get some SCV kills before having to go back home, but then wasn't quite sure, of course, what was hitting at his home, whether it was a drop or a direct push, whether the attack was hitting 5 seconds later or 5 seconds sooner, and just figured that he had the time to do so. I don't actually think Skillous was completely oblivious to the idea of the army on the way, right? I don't think he was like, oh, what? There's an army attacking me. Who knew? No, not at all. But he probably just lost track kind of like the timing of which it would hit and the opportunities which would be open. So the main base would be open, right? In hindsight 2020, it's not even that he would draw his Phoenix back faster, it's that he probably would have split his Stalkers so that 6 were in the main base. But either way, I think you could be critical on his decision to not track the army. Even though I think mentally he was checked into what could happen, there really was just a lack of, like, physical evidence. You know, you did lose track of the army. You did not have a way of tracking it once the Phoenix decided to go after those SCVs. So you could be very critical of that decision, for sure. Stargate coming in on 1 base. Skillous opened up 2 gases here. Byun not going for an SCV scout. We'll eventually see this with the Reaper. It's going to go for a natural expansion in the Hanging Natural. Not too unexpected in this matchup on this map. And as long as he does figure it's a Stargate, which he should. He sees the Nexus, he sees 2 gases really very fast in the main. Should 100% figure it's a Stargate. I don't think it's that problematic. I don't know if I told you guys about this while we watched the Reaper dance around. So my Airbnb is kind of crappy. I don't really like it. But whatever, it does its job. There's a scout in the Stargate. What has also been happening the last week is someone is, like, manic about furniture moving. Because they don't move their furniture at a decent time in the day. They only move their furniture from the hours 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. I swear to God. And it's every night. So I don't know what in the world it could possibly be. But I'm being reminded because, well, they're still doing it actually, so 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. Like, it's okay if it's just one scooch back on the chair. Okay, that's, you know, that if that makes sounds, like, I can't yell at them for that. But it's definitely not someone just pushing back their chair. It is constant moving of furniture. don't know why. Anyways, proxy Stargates, kind of proxy-ish, you know. Not really working out so far. Not really worth the hit to the economy, I would say. Actually, really nothing has happened. Aside, well, Skillous is the one that lost probes, actually. So really not working out. If Byun had opened up with, you know, no Reaper, which he has done today in some of these games, so it's really not absurd to think he would do it again, this could have been way worse. Way, way, way worse. Because yes, Byun might have had enough units to defend the Oracle, but if they're not in position, that's what you're looking for, right? But as soon as they're in position, Oracle has a lot of trouble doing any damage. Even if they're not in position, the Oracle usually isn't a GG button, because it's 3 shots, not 2 shots SCVs. Thank God for that change. You know, it's a really, really old change, so you're like, you should probably stop bringing it up or referencing it or being thankful for it. But to me, it's like prayer, okay? Jesus did his thing like 2,000 years ago, but people still be saying Hail Marys and... Well, Hail Mary's about, you know, Mary, but you know what I mean. I will say my prayers to the Oracle change, and no one else. Proxy gateway now coming down. Skill's all about the proxies. 3 gateways in total? Well, 3 plus 1. 1 proxied, so it is a 4 gate. 4 gate after Stargate opener, of course, so not as much of a hit. It's going to be with the Terran player having stim, but the Terran player had no idea this was on the way. Absolutely 0 scouting on the proxy, 0 scouting on the number of gateways in general. And the 2 medevacs picking up at kind of the worst possible time are at the very least able to fully unload and start digging into some of these stalkers. One of them dies, the rest of them still live. Good baits on the stasis trap. And Byun has enough to stop a 4 gate, for sure. It was a matter of having his units in position. With the way that he opened up, basically, like, kind of followed up into almost like a 2-on-1 situation. It would have meant that he didn't have a lot of tanks. Case in point, only 1 tank right now. But it also means that he has a decent number of bio units with stim and medevacs. So, yes, truly good stalker positioning and stalker numbers could have overtaken this. Actually, having that happen is kind of unlikely. Getting them into a position where they can freely blink reflexively. Holy shit, that was hard to say. Freely blink reflexively. There we go. It was always going to be difficult, and trapped as they were into this kind of tight pocket, there wasn't much concaving to be done. So now Byun figures he's pretty safe against the actual Stalker aggression. He's going to go for a double medevac drop into Skillous' natural, which Skillous is able to... I figured he saw. Yeah, you see, like, everything, man. But has to kind of let it go as far as letting it unload. But just because it unloads doesn't mean it's actually hitting anything important that is not an actual nexus, as Skillous continues expanding vertically. Not going to take the in-base for an extended period of time. Now using his Stalkers to try and pick off Marines. No, that is a terrible warp in. Oh, I think... Well, no, hold on. Actually, no, it's okay. It's okay. I was really worried half those Stalkers are going to retreat, and half the Stalkers are still going to be warping in as a tank sieged up. Fortunately, the tanks were not in position to kill the warping in Stalkers, and the rest of the Stalkers did not have to retreat. They bited up. They were all together in this, and now they're all together defending. So I think Skillous has a really good shot defending, but he absolutely has to. He is actually down in workers, despite not taking worker damage himself past the initial Reaper attack. He's just been so hyper-focused on doing the aggression. His third base really did not come down all that quickly, and the pro production was not, you know, all that consistent. But he does have an army to work with. Aggressive blink on top of the tanks. Zealots lead the charge, literally. And the combination of units is going to work out beautifully for Skillous to send Byun packing. But Byun, as long as he doesn't die to the counterattack, has plenty of room to work with. He has actually an 8-worker lead over his opponents. He is down 20 army supply, but it's hard to break someone who has 2 tanks positioned with SimCity. With Zealots unable to break through the wall immediately, and the Stalkers probably unable to blink into that, right? That'd be a decision. Byun is okay to hold up on 2 bases. He is. And not just okay as in he's going to survive. I think he's actually okay as in this is okay for the state of the game. For Byun, he might not be able to read this as accurately, right? Which is fair. It's hard to know exactly what's going on. There's bits and pieces of information. Okay, this guy tried to 4-gate Blink me. Okay, it didn't do a whole lot. Probably delayed his third Nexus, or had to delay his third Nexus. Okay, maybe the third Nexus is up and running, but did he actually get away with a lot of probe production, or did he cut probes to get that gigantic army that just took me down? Probably cut probes, right? So Byun should probably know that he has a good position here to play out this game, but it is a little sketch. And then I think the sketchiest thing about it is that even if Byun knows, okay, it's not that big of a deal, like, I'm okay. I got the economy, my third base on the way, still have defensive prowess here. It is concerning to just stop doing anything to your opponent. You stop aggressing at all. So no drops, no scouting, no push, no fear to have them think, okay, maybe I shouldn't probe, maybe I shouldn't get the technology, maybe I shouldn't do this or that. That can be a little concerning. But patience is rewarded here for Byun as he builds up his bio now with ghosts and 1-1 versus 0-0. Skillous only just now working on his +1 attack. Gonna try and cover some of the lack of upgrades with AoE. Classic. Storm is on the way, but it's already being countered by ghosts, presuming everything goes perfectly. Good micro from Skillous. Brings that one High Templar forward. Gets this warning storm, basically. Whoopsie-daisy. But he needs to make sure to micro his other High Templars so they don't all get EMP'd. Skillous is going to go for the break. I don't know, man. I don't think he can. He's got to give up this position. His third Nexus is now going to be in a really tough spot. You know, having the tank siege up here was annoying, but it wasn't doing anything quite yet. Having them siege up here is a big difference. They are starting to lay into the Nexus, the gases, the army, all types of choked up. War Prism finally comes along to help out those storms. An EMP does hit one of the High Templars, and actually, I think that's it for the storms, guys. That is actually it. Skillous' army supply just plummets. He could not handle the positioning here. He needed to actually full stop the army, and was unable to do so. GG, Byun, more than fine, going home after the attack on the natural. Comes back with an even better, more perfect army on the third base, with even better positioning as well. And takes a pretty easy fight there.